Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Full moon today as we're recording.
Yeah.
So first I want to ask, how does the full moon affect you? I know we've talked about it before, but it's always good to come back and go over it again in case somebody hasn't watched those videos. But how does the full moon affect you? And then we'll discuss some of the things we can do during a full moon.
So we also had an eclipse last night,
Right.
which the dogs woke us up by somebody had to go poop and pooped in the house because they didn't let us know.
Okay.
And then Freeman took the dogs out, and when he was outside, he recognized that the eclipse was happening. So we got to see that. I'm like, see, they did it for a reason.
There you
They
go.
got us outside to go see what was going on. The full moon is different for me, like on every time. It's not the same. Like this time I feel at peace, like right now, but typically in the past, it would have been something totally different. And it seems like before I would say that it might have me up, the energy might have me up, but this time it seems like I've been waking up anyways. I've had different things going on with myself, and I don't know, like energies. So when I wake up, that's an opportunity for me to go back into meditation, which I am so in love with meditation right now. It's really, I'm constantly trying to find, well, no, I can do it right now. I can do it right now. I can do it right now. I'm going to do it right now. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it frequently. So it's not really getting me as much. And before I would feel like a lot of releasing of stuff because the full moon, right? It's releasing. It's shining the light on things. If you think about it in a different way, it's nothing can hide in that light, and it can't. Of course, then we had the eclipse last night, so maybe it'll feel a little bit different to me tonight. I don't know, but there's just so much energy, and I'll tell you, just even like last night, twice I heard someone calling my name, and then this morning it sounded like a man, and he's like, "Hey, Beverly," and I wake up and I'm looking around the room. You know, there's of course there's nobody there, but so I mean, not a huge. I know your experiences that you experience typically around the full moon is pretty consistent, or are you noticing something a little bit different this time?
This time it's typical for me to be energized, so have a heightened amount of energy, physical, like zzz, right? Not too out of control, but I just have a lot of energy. And for our listeners, it's pretty typical that we're in the energy of a full moon or new moon 3 days before and 3 days after. So I can typically, because my energy starts to, be a little more than usual. And so even without looking at a calendar, I can typically tell when a full moon is coming. And but this time, I mean, it has been that when a full moon is coming that or is here is I don't get a lot of sleep. But as you were talking, I was like, I slept pretty good last night. I've slept pretty good over the past couple nights. So maybe another shift has happened. I don't know, because this actually would be a little foreign to me right now.
Yeah, it's just peaceful. I really do feel more at peace.
Yeah. And it could be, let me just add a little bit too, is I'm listening to a recording of Wayne Dyer's, and he's talking about the Moses Code. And in one of the chapters of the recording, he included the meditation for the Moses Code. And I started listening to that yesterday. So that might have a little bit to do with it also.
Nice. It might. And when you think about it, so if the full moon is for shedding light on things and for, things to come forward, because it's God, that's the more we're having this conversation, I'm just really realizing that I don't feel like I'm being tortured by anything. Of course, when these emotions come forward now, I am just sitting in it. I'm sitting in it. I'm feeling it. I'm looking at it, whatever I feel drawn to do at that moment. But maybe it's because evolving through a lot of the stuff, and we're doing the work. You know what I mean? I don't want to really say doing the work. When the stuff comes up to the surface, it's time to let it go. And maybe we've let go of a lot of things. Maybe we don't have that resistance that we once had,
Yeah.
because it does feel different. And of course, what am I doing differently? I'm meditating. I started, made sure I come in and stretch, because last night while I'm sleeping, I had asked a question before I went to bed. And in one of my dreams, I'm telling someone, you need to be stretching, do this stretches. So it was like, it wasn't for somebody else, that's for my experience. So it's like, okay, stretching is important, right? It's opening up the body of any places that are trapped or anything like that. So I'm doing these things, and I'm also doing automatic writing, which I recommend to anybody. I really do. It's even if you get into your head. So automatic writing is, you might have a question when you go into it, or you might just sit down with a pen and paper. You might get woke up in the middle of the night and feel like, I really got to write this stuff down. So I always have pen and paper next to the bed as well, because I know that I'm in the process, that it's going to be something that I need to have right there. Not need, but I will be utilizing it, because there's a reason for it there. It doesn't matter if it's sit there for 2 weeks prior to, or a month. It doesn't matter. I just have a knowing that I'll be utilizing that more. But this automatic writing is so amazing. You get into just a peaceful, you could get into your meditative space. It's where you're not really in your head at all, but you might have a question. Maybe you want to hear from a loved one. And that's something that a lot of people can do. And then you just sit there with it when you're in this space, but not in a space of, I've got to hear from them. I need to hear from, I haven't heard from them. Why aren't they contact? All these things, this energy, not having an attachment to it, but being in that space of just relax and peace. And even an attachment to an answer, like just anything, like, what is my purpose? Because you're probably gonna get an answer, but it's not gonna be like, well, you need to go over to this place right now and fill out an application because they want you to work here and you're gonna change the world from right here. We change the world every second of the day, all the time, every little thing. So it's just being aware of all that stuff, but it's being in that space of coming off of a meditation, which is when I really like to do it. When you're just in a quiet, peaceful place, whether it was 2 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. But being in that space, and then you sit there and you might write a question down. What does my loved one have to tell me? And you sit there and you write down that question. What does my loved one have to tell me right now? And then as you're writing that, you start feeling that there's more, you start getting words. And now it's an opportunity, because a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, that's just me making up this shit. Well, I can tell you right now, I've looked back at my stuff and I don't talk like that. This is not the way that I'm receiving this information, is not my words. It's not. I find it interesting. One of the things, I'll give you an example. I had sent Jim a message like, what do you want me to know right now? And he says, I forgive you for whatever you think you did wrong. Because there's nothing to forgive me for. It's me feeling that need for whatever, that forgiveness for whatever during that time frame, not being there for him when he transitioned and not, whatever. But it's in that space, but that's not the way I talk. That's not. So I'm in that space, but like I was starting to say, even though you're in that space and you're receiving this information and you start doubting yourself, that doubt, okay, that's my thoughts. I don't have to give energy to it, but that's my thoughts. This is what's distracting me right now. Okay, so those are my thoughts. And then maybe re-ask the question to yourself again, and then start writing again, and start writing and see what kind of comes forward. And then you might question yourself again, but that's okay. Then you go back to the same thing and you'll know when it's like, that's all I needed to know right now. Maybe it's one word. It's just a simple thing. And I'm getting really good information. Even asking, I was even asking the council yesterday after meditation, like what do I need to know right now? And that they're telling me that I'm on the right path, and that they're basically recalibrating me or setting my energy up to where I can receive more energy coming in. So I was just talking to Freeman this morning. I've been pulled every time I drive by the Wallapies. I've got like something inside of me that automatically turns and like is looking in that area. It's like a pull. That's why I tell them it's like someone's sitting inside of me and they're like, no, we got to look over there. And it's interesting. So it's like I'm constantly looking over there. So now when I come home, instead of coming up the 40, I might come through the Wallapies. And as soon as I'm coming up through there, it's automatically raising my vibration, because you've got all the rocks and the fresh, clean air and the trees, and it's so green right now. And it just I can feel the energy of it, all of it when I'm coming through. But now I'm thinking that's probably what it is, because the energy is not feeling as prominent as it was when I first started coming through there. So I feel like my vibration's going higher to match that energy, so that now the next thing will be to bring me even higher. And this is for all of us, right? This is for all of us. It's not just for me. We're all special and we're all unique, and but we're all one as well. We're all amazing. And it's just stepping onto that path, whatever that path looks like for each and every individual.
Yeah, I like the automatic writing. It's so fascinating to me. Do you, when you do automatic writing, do you keep your pen to paper? And if nothing's coming at the moment, do you just keep moving your pen, or do you pause and take your pen off the paper? How do you do your automatic writing?
I pause and just listen for the rest of the information to come forward, because I've been hearing there. Go ahead, I answer that question, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some other stuff that kind of has come in from all that. How do you do it?
I've done it both ways. When
Okay.
I was first learning about it, I was in a class and the teacher said, just keep your pen on the paper and allow the words to come through. Well, she said, first, you're probably just going to start moving your pen. So whether it's just circles or doodling, but you keep your pen to the paper and just
Okay.
doing something. It's keeping that energy flowing. And she's like, and then just, listen and allow information to flow. And as words start coming to you, you're going to find that you'll start writing them out. And then if there's a break in the words, you just keep your pen to paper and just keep moving it. And I found that very helpful.
Okay, that's awesome.
For my first experience, I had a lot of swirlies on my paper.
Nice.
But some stuff came through. But as I've, have progressed in meditation and all that I just have a pen and paper there. And when something comes through, I write it down and then pause and then write and then pause. Right. So, one of the things that I mentioned this, I think a couple of weeks ago, is that I have a notebook, and then I put the date, and then I put, how can my life get even better? And then I listened to some meditation music. Like I said yesterday, I started listening to the Moses Code. And just with that question, allowing information to come through. Now, it's been a single word like breathe. It's been a class idea. It's been solutions to problems that I was trying to figure out. Nothing extravagant, but when you're just sitting in that space, allowing that information to flow, that's making my life even better, right? Because it's like, oh, here's the answer. Here's what would be beneficial. There was something else, some other thing I was trying to figure out, and it was more like ask the question to this person because they're going to help you figure it out. So things like that just flow instead of me sitting here trying to rack my brain and, in the moment trying to, because right, it's our energy. And when we allow ourselves to be open to the information to flow, there it is. Makes my life even better. So, and when I ask that question, how can my life get even better? It's not a that I don't like it's my life is good. How can it get even better? Right. It's that excitement. It's that ease. It's that flow. And so that's where I allow whatever information to come, having a notebook in hand, writing out whatever comes to me.
I like that. And I like that you shared the scribbles, which takes me back, we've all, a lot of us have seen Tyler Henry and the Long Island Medium. They both will scribble. And that gets you present, right? That puts you right into the now, and it's distracting you. So if you're doing that, and if you're really paying attention, I'm just scribbling in a circle right now. Now you're allowing, or you're choosing to receive this information. You're listening, right? That's awesome. Because I haven't done that, and I didn't think about doing that. I just would sit and I would re-ask the question again, as kind of what I've been doing recently.
Yeah.
and then listening, but that's teaching me how to listen. So I had finished massage school, and then I had finished aesthetics, and I had to do my finals. I had to go do a board test exam. So I went in to do the board exam, and then I got to a question, and I didn't recognize that we had gone over this information in school at all.
You checked out in that moment, right? You were somewhere else.
Well, and I could have been, it could very well have been, but I didn't know. And I'm looking at the questions, and all of a sudden I got the vibration in my forehead. So this was like telling me, this is how I started learning to use my body, to start feeling my body. So I felt that. I even went back all the way to the beginning of a test and went through each and every question until I got a vibration on whatever it was. I didn't pick it. You know what I mean? So I just double checked everything. It wasn't timed. So I was able to go back through the whole test, all I know is pass or fail, and I passed. That's all I know. So but that's where it started from. That's how it started, to let me know that I could feel these things, right? Which we all can. It's just different. It's just however your experience plays out. Well, just recently, and that's been, I mean, I've been doing massage like 9 years now. So that's probably like 9 or 10 years ago that experience. I mean, I would probably say it's probably about 10 years ago that I had that experience. And now, because I'm in a different space, I'm listening. So when I go off into meditation at night, now I'm saying, okay, I'm here, I'm listening for you to come talk to me or whatever. And I'm hearing the answers. And so before I would go in and say, oh, I would ask questions all the time for yes or no, and I would feel a no. I would feel or a yes is a vibration in my third eye area. And then on my left side of my face, I would feel my no was almost like as if something had pinched off my face over on this side. So it's just being aware of all these things. And then it graduated to, if I sat really quiet and I didn't have an attachment, because sometimes I do have an attachment to my questions. I'm freaking, I'm in this experience with everybody else. And then I would feel inside of me, I would be nice and quiet, and I would feel like it would bring me to a yes with the nodding of my head. And then other times I would just sit there and I would feel it turn my head to the left and then to the right. Sometimes it would be very dramatic, and sometimes it would be just small. And then recently, in the last week, now I'm actually hearing them talking to me. But in this experience I'm going through, as soon as I heard them talking to me, I'm like, zoom in on it, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Because I put too much attention on it. I got focused and I got caught in my head. So it's like this whole progression, this thing that's happening right now, which is amazing. So I'm just letting people know, because we're all in this together, and we're all having our experiences. And it's all these little details. It's not looking at it as if you're not experiencing it, because in one way or another, you are experiencing things. It's whether you have an awareness of it. And if you think, oh, I'm not feeling these things, well, then you're just separating yourself from something that you're already experiencing, because it's your birthright. I mean, it's just automatic. You're a spirit.
Yeah. And it's just so people understand that automatic writing is different than journaling.
Yes.
Journaling, I just wanted to make that, acknowledge that for people who are listening, because journaling is it's kind of like an outlet, that you're being expressive in your humanness, is the way I can explain it. Is that you're moving that emotion, you're writing down, how your life experiences are affecting you, and I mean, just writing about anything, maybe your gratitude, what you're grateful for that day, just a myriad of things that you're very aware of, and you're using your thinking brain. Automatic writing is where it's a more of a meditative state, where you're just opening up your crown chakra, your third eye, opening up your gifts, abilities, your clairs, and allowing the information to flow to you from divine source, God, spirit, whatever terminology, right? And it's just allowing that information. What's happening is you're when in meditation, we become more in alignment with our spiritual self. To me, is from the heart space, but we're in alignment with our spiritual self to the divine, and that access to all information, and where it's like that funnel is just funneling into you to help you answer your questions, or provide you a direction, or bring the solutions that you're seeking. And And it really does. I mean, the more I do it, the more I'm just like, if only, if only we'd been taught this many years ago. But we're being taught in the divine time, where now that we're practicing it, we get to share that with others, and it's just a continuous basis of growing and expanding in our spiritual self while we're in this human body. Just because you're having a human experience doesn't mean that you can't access that divine essence for guidance. It's you're asking for it when you're in prayer. What I find with prayer, though, is people say a prayer asking for help, guidance from God, typically. And when they're done with that prayer, they're like, okay, done. Now they're back into life, and it's go, 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 go. And they're not present in their moment to receive the information. And then it's like, well, I asked and I have not gotten any help whatsoever. God's not listening. No, God, angels, source, the guide, they're all listening. You're not listening. Right? It's like, take responsibility. You're not listening, because now we're in a time of our life where we're bombarded with so much information through technology that's where our attention and focus is, instead of being present and aware in and around ourselves. Even when looking at technology, we get our answers through that too. But if you're just a scroller, like you're just going at it, and you're not pausing to go, oh yeah, I said a prayer that pertained to this, and look, here's a poem, here's a post, here's right, a meme, here's something that's answering my prayer, giving me the direction. So take responsibility that spirit is listening every single moment of every single day. You're not.
It's true, because that's what I was saying, or what I was thinking as soon as you said that. Oh, I'm asking God and God's not listening, and it's like, but God's all, we're aspects of God. So if God's not listening, that's because you are not listening. Yeah, I mean, it's for me, from my experience, that is the truth.
Yeah.
And in this automatic writing, it reminds you, and it lets you know that we're never alone. We don't have to do this alone. That's where the whole independent thinking started, right? When you're raised, my mom raised me to be independent. I was so proud about that my whole life. Independent what?
Right.
Like, seriously, there's so many things. Independent what? Like, what does that even mean? Independent
How
from,
hard was it?
yeah, and I have to do this all myself. And it's not because you're saying, oh God, I need everybody's help and I'm not doing anything and letting everybody do all the work. I did it, and that just taught me not to even know how to ask but it did teach me how to ask. It just was a longer road to get there. I feel like it could be a lot easier, just like you said. It'd be awesome to learn a lot of this stuff as when we were children, because now God, think about this. We're coming from this experience of being so free and limitless, to now we're in a limited body, and the focus is, gosh, how am I going to get out of this bed? How am I going to be able to communicate to these people that are standing around me, because they clearly don't hear what I'm saying right now? There's just such a process that's going on, and so we forget about all these things. About, gosh, even yesterday, we were talking about imagination. And it's like, imagination has been so discounted, but imagination is everything. I had a dream, and I've talked to a few other people about doing the same thing, but I asked a question that night before I went to sleep, and my dreams are called experiences for me, because I know there's a reason for them. But in this place, I'm showing my granddaughter, I'm like really holding my hands like this, and I'm like, now I want you to fill that space up with light right now. Can you see that light in there? Like, really, and this is in my dream, I'm doing this, but I've also talked to people recently about doing this, and you fill it up, and you fill it up with all this love and joy and all these good feeling things, healing. And then I said, now you take that light and put it on you wherever you want to. I said, because that light's going to go wherever you need it to go to, which is not so dissimilar from Reiki, because Reiki's going to go in, but you're not having to do attunements. There's not any of that kind of stuff going on. This is something that we can automatically do. It's easy. And then next thing you know, you're just putting hands on someone. I have a family member that her husband says, Well, when my knees are bothering me, I just have her put her hands on me. And she's like, I don't get it. You know, she's not saying anything. I'm like, because it's a natural thing that we can allow to flow. And when you're not in a space of blocking it, thinking I can't do this and whatever else, it's just your imagination. That's why I said it's been so discounted, but we can do so much with our imagination. And that's really a space to be in more frequently anyways. Because when you're in your imagination, you're lighter, you're creative, you're more hopeful. And creativity comes in so many different, it comes in so many different ways. My granddaughter's birthday and my daughter's birthday was over the weekend. So we had celebrated both their birthdays. And well, I live outside of town, and I'm like, well, telling Freeman I didn't get any cards or probably need to get a card. And then I had wrapping paper here. So, and it's like, and I can always be, wrapping paper can be so many different things. So, but I didn't have a card, and he's like, well, why don't you make her one? And I was like, oh, that is so great. I used all of my day, Saturday, a big majority of my day creating her card. I was just having fun with stickers because I was having fun. That's like a kid thing to do. We've gotten so wrapped up that we've got to go buy these things and do these things that we've forgotten all the opportunities we have to create something.
Yeah.
And it was on a piece of construction paper. It could be on anything. It could be on toilet paper. It doesn't even matter. It depends on who you're sending it to.
Right.
But I mean, it could be anything, right? It really could be anything. And it's just really being in that space of using our imagination, stepping into our child, because that's our child nature.
Yeah.
That's all that space. So it's like all these things have been happening, but because I've been listening, I've been going into a different direction. And it feels good. This that I've been talking about, if you listen to our videos for the last couple of years, I'm sure on several videos I've said something along the lines meditation. Yeah, I'm trying to do meditation. Now I'm choosing meditation. You know, there was always, for whatever reason, it just wasn't time for me yet. I just wasn't ready for it yet. Just like this information, some of the stuff I wouldn't be ready for. But now, just like you were saying, if we were to use this information, if we had this information back when we were kids, it would be so much different now. It would be so different now. But that's the opportunity that we have for all the kids that are around us right now. It is teaching them to use their imagination. It is seeing that light and being able to take that bubble, that ball of light, and then set it onto your heart or onto your body, and then see what happens. Like knowing that these things could happen, because they are happening. It's actually happening with all kinds of people. They are receiving their healing. We're just in a different space, and I think being more open to this stuff. But we took a different journey because we were to be awake now. We were to be in the space where we are right now. And if someone's watching this right now and they feel like they're not in that space, well, you're awake or you wouldn't be watching this, first of all.
Right.
You already are. You're just going through the phases of all this now. So it's just enjoy this journey.
I think, you know, at such a time as this, Bev and I chose to come in when we did into these physical bodies, of being, because neither one of us was raised with a religious background. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, my mom tried to go churches, but I was never my draw.
Yeah. Well, I asked my grandma, because everybody around me, you know, all my friends, most of my friends, a lot of my relatives, they were going to church. And I was fairly young. And I remember, as if it just is happening right now, that my grandmother and I were in the kitchen, and I just looked up at her and I'm like, Grandma, how come we don't go to church? And now this would be back in the 70s, like late 70s. She just turned and looked at me and she goes, I could pray to God in my own house just like I can in a church. I said, okay. And I was satisfied, right? I was like, okay. But at such a time as this, that we were, I feel like I was blessed that I didn't grow up with a religious background. And because that allowed me to be open to asking questions about life and about what does it mean, the meaning of life, the purpose, right? And be open to the information that flowed to me. The very first book to me was one of Sylvia Browne's, and it resonated with me so much. And, you know, she's talking about talking to spirits and spirit guides, and life after life and all these things. And I'm like, what? So I was so open to that. And when I read that book, it resonated with me so deeply. So, us being open to this type of avenue of information allows us to, I like the word that you used was bridge. We're a bridge between old thinking behaviors and patterns to new. And it's like we get, even though we weren't raised with religion, like we get the old thinking patterns and belief systems which cause limitations, and we understand the lightness and the loving space of spirituality and that connection, which is to me is all heart based. And here's Bev and I were like, let's be light workers. Like that wasn't what we said when we were 8 years old. We took the hard road. And so when you hire a coach, a teacher, a mentor, an advisor, you're hiring them because you want the shortest path. What's the quickest way I can get there? That's Bev and I. We took the long, hard road. We're telling you how to get there quicker. Automatic writing is one of them. Meditation is one of them.
Yes.
Connecting with the full moon, new moon, that's one of them. So I like that. Like we're a bridge.
Yeah.
To both sides.
It's true.
So
no, it really is true. It's quite the experience when you think about a lot of this stuff. And we chose to go through it exactly the way we chose to go through it. Honestly, I mean, I really feel like that was just all part of the. Did I choose every single experience the way it happened? No, but at the same time, I was making a choice. So all of it was a choice how I was going in a lot of directions, really, in a lot of directions.
In a lot of it, you still have responsibility for being a part of it.
It's true.
It doesn't mean like all of it, and I'm saying this, and you already know this, but I'm saying this out loud for the audience. It doesn't mean everything that happened was your fault. It's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We did make choices that may have put us in that predicament. And then what the other person or people did, that's on them. Like it just so happened you were in that path and you were the receiver of whatever experience, trauma, discord that came up. The golden piece of that is learning to heal through it. So then you can emerge a better person. And I'm going to guarantee, I will guarantee you 100%, somebody will come along who's going to need the information that you have, and you can tell them how to get there quicker because you've been through it. You've been down the long, hard road, the scenic route.
That's right. That's right. And it's their choice, right? So it's not for anyone to push against anyone, because I've tried all that stuff. It doesn't work.
Right.
You know, trying to force a seed to grow doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And also something that kind of came to me, because during this conversation, all of a sudden I feel like I'm in such a divine space right now, or such a illuminated, that while I was sitting here, it was all of a sudden like, oh, this feels so great. And then I was like, I forgive myself. There's been so many times that I've forgiven myself, but from a place of not feeling good the way that I just felt a minute ago, the way that I was feeling. So it was an opportunity. And that was my guidance, or my guides letting me know that this is the time, because I don't need to hold on to anything anymore. Like that's the old story. That story is not something I'm going to bring forward anymore. That's not my experience any longer. That's talking about somebody else's stuff. That's like even when we started first talking about the full moon. Well, I could talk about how it had hit me in the past, but I don't want to go into details about that, because I'm talking about what am I experiencing now, or what had I experienced. I don't know what I'm going to experience, but because the reason I did that is because for the audience, like you would say, I don't want to bring to fruition I don't want to bring the old story back. It doesn't feel good. Where I'm at right now feels good. So that's the story that I want to share. That's the story I want to have. those are the things that feel good right now, that because I'm paying attention to what feels good. Finally, God, I even remember I couldn't even, what feels good? Like I couldn't even really process that statement. There's so many, I've gone through so many different phases. And that's why I say enjoy the journey. Because now that I'm at where I'm at right now, I can look back and see all those times, especially even a year ago, that I didn't feel like I was in the flow. So I'm going to continue my conversation of being the positive words to keep it going, because that's not how I felt at the time. So I was not constantly in the flow, but now I feel like I'm in more of a flow because I chose to start meditating, because I chose to start automatic writing, because I chose to start listening more, because I'm not staying stuck with the tools or the toys that I already had, with feeling the vibration in the forehead and the pulling on the left side of the face. It graduated because I didn't stay stuck that I had to feel it that way. I didn't have to receive the information that way. I wasn't controlling how I was receiving the information, and it's graduated. It's gradually changed. And the only way it can change is if I'm present and aware and using those things and living in that life. That's the only way I can do it. I remember when we first started talking, we talked about doing classes, right? We were going to get together with these groups, and you wanted it, you're a teacher, so you could organize things and, have like a guideline setting to the side to be able to go there through this stuff. And it's like, no, that is not me at all whatsoever. I couldn't function from that space. And now it's like we just you kind of went with the flow with it. So I couldn't control that kind of stuff because I didn't know what it even looked like. I was still even figuring out myself, and I still am, but I'm in such a better place of it. But you're talking to a person that wasn't meditating, wasn't journaling, and it's not because those things changed everything. I mean, they could have changed everything back then, but I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for any of those tools. I wasn't ready for any of that information. And that's why I'm saying, like, looking at your whole journey and along this way, and it's like, wow, I've changed. I've changed so much. Just even us even recognizing, talking about the full moon. Oh, no, this one feels different this time, because we could have gone back into the old story and started telling it from that space, but it wasn't even what we were experiencing this time. Everything had changed already, just like that. But that's how we don't, and until you're having a conversation with somebody else, you don't realize how much has changed within yourself until you get into a situation like, oh, I'm not even responding. I'm just here witnessing. I'm not doing anything at all. I'm so present right now. And oh, I didn't even feel any of that stuff that way that felt before. Just that we're just on this amazing journey of this feeling, and it's a gradual thing. It's not, because we have to be able to digest it. We have to be able to experience it, to live in that space. And I couldn't, back then I couldn't have. I learned new tools all the time, but I didn't utilize them.
And we got to do things in steps. So,
Yes.
as a teacher and as being here talking, it's sharing, because we refer to our old behavior, our old habits, the old person. It's sharing, like, so being relatable, that the audience understands, like, where we're at today. We just didn't arrive here. Like,
No.
and everything that we've been through is a step. And, a limiting belief is a step. Changing a habit is a step. Like, you have to go through these steps, these processes. Can we tell you how to get there quicker and faster? Absolutely. There's still steps to be had, still steps that have to be taken to get to where you want to be. It's just like setting goals. You know what the big picture is, but then you break that down into smaller goals, which are smaller steps. And then you do one at a time until you reach your goal. And there's going to be adjustments in there. There's going to be distractions in there. There's going to be people wanting you to do other things and take you off your path of the goal you want to reach. And as far as this journey of, I'm just going to call it I call it, when I was 28, I called it my conscious spiritual journey. So my conscious spiritual journey, I didn't have a goal for it because I didn't know what the hell it was. I just was like learning and changing and learning and changing, learning and adjusting. And by each step, there's some studying to be done, right? It's just like going through school. You gotta go from kindergarten to first grade, second grade, right? You're going to these different grades to reach graduating high school. And then if you go on to college, you get your PhD. Like you have to study in that section for a little while. And then something's going to come along to propel you. And then you're like, oh, well, this is new territory. And you're going to study that for a little while. And then, right. And it was just a gradual, a gradual expansion of yourself, the big S.
Yes, and anyone could go back and look at our videos and see how much there's been a lot of transition. There just really has. There just really has.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for all that, even though sometimes I didn't feel very thankful for some of the things. But just where I'm at today, yeah. But where I'm at today, there's a different feel to everything. You just don't take it so seriously.
Right.
And that's even getting lighter, even some of this when the processes come forward. But that's the whole thing. Gosh, lately it just feels like, well, my vibration's raised. So from that experience, from where I'm at right now, my vibration raised. If any of the old stories even pop in, I realize that they're popping in. If I'm starting to tell myself something in my head, I realize I'm telling myself something. I'm realizing, what information I'm receiving, and I'm by how it feels, right? I'm realizing it because I'm paying attention to how it feels. So it doesn't feel good. Why would I, if the fire's hot, why would you keep your hand in it? You wouldn't. You automatically want to pull it away. So, but we've like I don't know, playing chicken on the road, heading off with someone else. Like I ain't moving. I've been in that space too, but it's like I'm in that space of I'm gonna get out of the way because this is the path of least resistance this way, and then you can go on your journey however that looks for you, and hopefully I'll see you around this way, otherwise I'll see you in spirit. It's just it's an easier path.
So I just want to share a quick story of what I just did the other day. I did laundry. Well, I washed all the little throw carpets, right? And in washing some of them together, one shed and the other one took on the sheddings, whatever you call them, right? So my hubby's leaving. So the one that got all the little remnants on it, I pull it out of the dryer and I'm sitting there, and now I'm picking these little fur balls off this little carpet, right? And I'm having this conversation in my head, and that's no joke. Why am I doing this? Well, because it'll look better. Well, does it really matter that you're spending time standing here pulling these little fuzz balls off this little bathroom carpet? Does it matter? Well, like, no, it don't matter. It don't matter. It just looks better. And it just feels good to have it look a little better than having all these little fuzz balls all over it. And I proceeded to pick off the bigger ones and left the little ones. Back in the day, my old self, what do you think I would have done? Perfectionism would have said, this needs to be all off. Can't be having all these little fuzz balls on here. Just the other day, that was Sunday.
Nice.
So you see, I know Bev goes through this too in some ways.
Oh, yes.
That we still have these moments of awareness, and that's what it is. My behavior right now is the awareness of perfectionism, and to recognize, like, almost immediately, is it that important? Does it really matter? And a lot of times I'll go even to the extreme of, if I died right now picking these little fuzz balls off this rug, do you think anybody would care? Do you think anybody would care that these fuzz balls are on this little rug?
No. And I did have an experience like that when I was doing my granddaughter's card too, because I got it all done. It's all together, made an envelope and everything. And then I took a hole punch and I punched a hole, and I was measuring to do the next hole. Well, I couldn't the hole punch wouldn't go that far up. So I was like, dang it. So I thought I had it in the right space. It's a little bit darker in the room and my eyes were working beautifully. And I punched the hole into it and it was off a little bit to the left. And I was like upset about that for a couple seconds. Really. And then it's like Freeman says, I totally understand what you're doing. And it's like, I knew what I was doing too. Well, first of all, and then recognizing I was just done. I was done with it. And it was perfect anyways. It's for my granddaughter. She just turned 4, she's not going to care. And who cares? If she might have taken
Grandma, these are not straight. These are
yeah,
not in
like
alignment.
what were you thinking? But it was for me to tie, and once I tied the string through it anyways and tied it in a bow, you couldn't see where I
Yeah.
punctured the hole in the first place. So it was like, it was just something so silly. It's just silly little things, but having that awareness and then
Right.
recognizing, oh, here I was stepping right back on. I can't even say right back onto that path because it was nothing like what it was before. In the past, oh no, I would have
Start
probably
over.
taken and I would have started over. I would have.
Or you know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna go to the store. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna buy a
yeah,
car.
yeah, exactly. And it's like that takes away from the whole experience, really. But for me, there was so much to be learned. Like even in those moments, there's something to be learned, just like you said. We have a moment every moment. And we have these experiences that come forward and we could spend time beating ourselves up and being like, God, I thought I was past this. I'm awake, whatever. Like I'm on a spiritual path here. I'm doing, I could have beat myself up for it or whatever, but I didn't. I recognized that I was on that path and I got over it pretty quick.
And then
Pretty
what?
quick.
I mean, really, then energetic wise, or had your granddaughter been there with you, like
Yeah.
what would you be teaching them? Oh my gosh, I screwed this. You're teaching them perfectionism, right? And judgment and criticism. Well, that's not, I got to start over and chuck it, right? Throw it away and either start over and, or I'll just go buy a new one. Even if you would have said, you know what, forget, I'll just go buy a card. That heaviness of, man, I really was having fun making her the card. And now I messed it up, because you're going to blame yourself. I messed it up and now I'm buying this card. And then the energy in that card that you're going to give your daughter or your granddaughter, it's like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
And at the same time, that energy is being put onto money. That energy is being transferred. It's because it's a whole experience, right?
Yeah.
Now I have to go do this, and you're not even enjoying the experience anymore at all. And it's not even the same thing. You're just not putting out the same vibe at all. Everything has changed at that moment. So it's really recognizing every little detail, because it's like a domino effect. And it's not because we're doing anything wrong, but you can't get there without awareness. You can't. I mean, I don't really think you can. Awareness, you've got to be present to see what you're doing. I was talking about multitasking this morning. I used to think I was such a great multitasker because I was very efficient getting things done. But to me, multitasking is not being present. You're in a different space every single second, but you're not really even taking the time to be present in every single second. You're too busy off to the next thing, which you put yourself in that space of being in a hurry, always trying to get things done to the next, being on top of all that stuff. And it's that was a lot of stuff to walk away from for me as well. And being on this journey, it hasn't felt like I've walked away from anything. It's like, oh, I don't do that stuff anymore. Wow. It wasn't something I had to practice or really focus on doing. It was just like one little step led me to the next step. And our steps can be as big as we choose.
Yeah. Well, the multitasking was a kudos to the ego of how much I could get done in a shorter amount of time. But really, multitasking is just moving from one task to the next, and then coming back to the first one of 5 or 20, and do something, do a little bit of it, and then go down the line again, and then come back. It's like nothing's. Just focus on a task and get it done. Yeah. Let's just be done right here, right now.
And that's something else, because remember we talked about, this is something that came up for me recently. We talked about on this path being, I've got 10 different books I'm reading, or you know what I mean, being on the path and doing all these things, and you're like all over the place. But it's no different than if you go to a job and you decide you don't like the job, or it's not fulfilling you anymore. I probably wouldn't move forward wouldn't recommend it. It's moving forward from something you don't like, but just recognizing, well, I learned what I needed to learn from that. I'm on to the next thing. So it's like all these things that I learned along the way doesn't necessarily mean that it was something that I was going to use, but one led to the next. Excuse me, all along this journey to where I am finally now, that I'm feeling like more focused on, I have more focus on certain things. And it's such a narrower scope, but I had to go through all this stuff, the other stuff, because I had to taste a little bit of that, taste a little bit of that, taste a little bit of that. So it was all over the place. And so it's like on your path, it's like recognizing it's okay to be all over the place. It is, but it's recognizing eventually it's not going to be that way anymore. And I kept thinking, well, why can't I just read one book? Why can't I just, because I was drawn to so many different things at one time. So I had
Right.
to, it's like testing the water to see, do I like this? Does this really resonate with me? Because a lot of stuff I would love, it sounded so great to do. And then I just didn't have that desire or that pull. So it wasn't like it was a waste of time. It never was a waste of time, because even that little bit of a taste or that little piece that I took from that one thing, it's added to something else. It's just like all of our experience in our life, all those little things make us who we are.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with going down that journey of just trying different things and being aware, because we've tried a lot of things. You know, we've like you said, we took the scenic route.
The long scenic route.
Yes. Yes. Because you can get there so much faster if that's in your desire. I'm meeting young people, you know, a lot, and I'm hearing the conversations where they're at. And I've also met other young people without judgment that they're so restricting of things. Like, oh, well, a young person I was speaking to recently, well, I'm just having hormone issues. Well, it's from my perspective on an energy level, it's never about, I'm just having hormone issues. There's a deeper emotional issue or emotional trauma or emotional circumstance that has been in your experience somewhere from the time that you came here to now.
Yeah.
And that's all. And you can heal yourself from these things by recognizing it. And all the stuff puts you back, like just for me, meditation, the automatic writing, the stretching, the yoga, the whatever anyone decides to do, you're honoring yourself and giving time for yourself. Your world will change around you. It becomes more peaceful because it matches you. It comes up to meet up with you.
And it's having the moment of stillness or awareness to match up with it, to help the
Yes.
change happen. So again, it's the responsibility is right here.
You can't blame anybody else. No, because it's for me. And that for me, I'm matching up with the divine. That's where I'm matching up with. I'm not matching up with my experiences around me. I'm matching up with my divine, and then the divine is matching up with me. And it's like leaping forward to find any way it can to be the match to that.
And again, Bev and I or any other teacher or mentor or coach can give you the path to the quickest and fastest. The responsibility is still in your container of implementing on a consistent basis. Like, we can give you all the tools. We can give you everything we've ever learned, told you every book we've ever read, every person we've ever listened to. This is how we got here. These are our bases of our teaching. Here's the cliff notes. Here's what you got to do. But if you don't do it, if you don't implement on a consistent is the key. Consistent is the key. You have to be consistent. If you're not consistent in your practice, then you're going to be on the scenic route. You're going to be at the lookout points of a pause because you're trying to figure shit out. What did they say? What did they say?
Yeah.
They said something. I was supposed to do something right here. And
Well, and that's recognizing too, at the same point, that's recognizing that maybe they're not ready for that information, or maybe that's not a fit for you. But that's where it's very important to know that everything that's happened around you is by your choice. It's by what you're bringing forward into the environment. And you have a choice to change it at any moment. And the best way to get there is by what feels good and what doesn't. And then by doing that, you start recognizing, oh, I have passion towards this. It just takes time. And then you start recognizing, oh, I love me. I'm
Yeah.
pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
It's taken me 52 years. So however you guys get there, that's awesome. That's right.
Started 14 years, no, 24 years ago. That number keeps getting bigger. 24 years ago I started.
That's awesome.
Woo, sister, what a journey.
Exactly.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing your information, your knowledge, and your wisdom, and being here each and every week so I can have a therapy session. I appreciate you. I'm saying that in a selfish way.
Thank you, and ditto. It is very beneficial.
On a side note, has nothing to do with what we talked about. It could. I mean, everything could be intermingled in some way, but in case you guys have seen it while I've been waving my hand around, I got my first henna done.
Nice.
A little lotus. So I didn't want somebody to think, right? I don't want to be judged to think that my hand's a mess. But yeah, it's my first henna
Awesome.
at 52.
Nice. I like it.
And after I got it, I have so many questions for people who get it done all over their body. I'm just saying.
Well, it's got an energy, honestly. You know, everything you put on your body's got an energy.
Yeah.
So it's having that awareness.
Any final notes, ma'am?
Take time for yourself.
Yeah.
Like
Practice
if you do
that automatic writing because it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I would totally say try that out. But if it's just maybe today you can only take 3 breaths.
Yeah.
Deep breaths. You're going to take more breaths than that. But if you can do 3 deep ones, and on that third one, you have a couple of seconds of peace. Well, guess what? You just got the beginning taste of peace.
Yeah. And 3
Baby
seconds
steps.
is better than none.
That's right. And it's the start. It's all a start.
That's it. That's a step.
Yes.
All right, my friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. We're here every week so far. And we'll see you next week.
Okay. Sounds wonderful.
All right,
See you
take
later.
care.